Well, folks, it's time to kick it off for another episode. And we've got a special guest in the house today, Miss Erica Arce.
Hi. Hello.
Yogi extraordinaire.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. So let's dive right into it because I think you've got a story to tell and the world wants to know it. And I think you're going to help a lot of people for those that listen to this because we help others through story. It's one of the best ways to learn. So let's kick it off by asking this powerful question. What's your story?
What's my story? Well, I am writing a memoir. Ooh. And I'll probably finish in another 2 or 3 years. But I grew up in New Jersey. I'm an only child. I'm very imaginative and creative. I went to art school, went to yoga school.
What part of Jersey?
Hudson County.
Hudson County, where is that?
Hudson,
North? Central?
That's North Jersey.
North
Jersey, right across from the New York City. So,
my God, that's easy.
A view of the Manhattan skyline.
That's cool.
Wow.
My whole life. Yeah. So, artist turned yogi turned realtor. Essentially, that's the gist of my story.
Yeah, and when you grew up in Hudson County, what schools did you go to?
I went to the public schools there, and they were in very interesting neighborhoods.
Like, what was the name of your high school?
Memorial High School.
Memorial High School?
Yeah.
Okay. And everything went smooth, going through the grades?
It was as smooth as like walking through fire and coals and like laying on a bed of nails. It was that smooth.
See how smooth she's just laid it out for you?
What's that? What is that? I like that.
Yeah. I get these calls constantly and I can't turn them off. Sorry about that, guys.
The spaceship has landed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us about that. You said it was smooth as walking on fire and through shards of glass, perhaps. What exactly caused that?
Oh, there were some unfortunate incidents in my early youth, as far back as grade school, that informed the rest of my years in school. And so I went from being kind of like a gifted and talented student who was still maybe just a little smart. I'll just say a little smart.
Yeah.
To failing out of grade school, to not doing well in high school, and then the rest of my journey was trying to pick myself back up and get myself to a place where I was myself again.
Now, without getting into too much detail here, right? Because we want to respect everybody's boundaries. Without getting too much detail, what kind of thought process? What did that journey coming out of that tough circumstance look like? What breaks did you get along the way?
What breaks did I get along the way?
To where you were like, you know what? I don't need to live like this. I have the power.
Yeah.
Just put it, what was your pivotal moment that you decided to say, this is not for me, I'm going to do something else?
There were many, thank you. There were many pivotal moments. And I think initially when some circumstances, some things went down, I wanted to leave. And I wasn't able to leave New Jersey. So I think at the end of high school, I was able to leave New Jersey and move to a different state. And that shifted a lot for me because I was in a different environment, different people, different energy. I was able to be by the ocean a lot, which I find the ocean to be very healing. So that was a really beautiful turning point. And through lots of practice and good people around me, I was able to get back on my feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of cojones to go on your own, especially in this time, right? Like, there's so many things that are known that a lot of people are very scareful. I'm sorry. I got to turn this off.
The spaceship is going back up.
I got to turn this off.
No, it's fun.
Okay. Yeah. So, nowadays it's a lot of, you ask a lot of people if they are willing to do, jump overseas or go to another country, and a lot of people are hesitant now. I think there's so much stuff going on in the world that back in the day when I was raised, it's like, just go wherever. Back in the day, you can hitchhike, right?
Right.
It was cool.
Yeah.
You can't even do that anymore.
My mom used to hitchhike when she was a teenager.
Yeah, it was safe. And if you knew everybody knew everybody. Now there's a lot of things that, you're not able to do.
Yeah,
So.
it's very different. I think the safety, like the feeling of safety, is not there anymore, which is unfortunate because there are definitely other countries where children can walk to school alone and not be harmed. It's just maybe one day we'll get there in this country.
So you moved to
Florida.
Mm-hmm. What area of Florida?
I lived on the southwest side, so I lived in Naples, Florida.
Okay, yes.
I was Bonita Springs, Fort Myers, that whole area.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, really beautiful. I love the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, really beautiful ocean down there.
Nice, nice.
So let's bring it back just for a second here. You get involved in an interesting circumstance, and let's say you're to help somebody that might be going through something similar. What kind of how would you help them? Like, what would you say? Because there might be somebody out there listening to this that is dealing with something similar, or one step to the left or the right.
Yeah.
How can they help themselves, rather? What would you say for them to help themselves?
I think sometimes things in life happen. And I think when you're younger, right, and, you're an innocent person, not an adult that knows right from wrong, let's say, just like an innocent, when things happen, I think it can be very confusing when tragic things happen. And I think that it's important to know and understand that you're not alone, and that nothing is your fault, and that you can reach out to people, either family or friends, or even professionals for assistance. And I think that's something that I didn't do because I felt a lot of shame, and I felt like I couldn't go to anyone or tell anybody. But there were ripple effects of that, like in the people that I was around, and it wasn't good at all. And so I think that it's important to reach out to people who can help.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you should, right?
Yeah.
So you're going along through high school, and then, you're flunking out almost or something, right? You said, like, you weren't really doing well in school.
Yeah, I was just coasting. I mean, there was a lot going on.
And then Florida.
Yeah.
And then is that when everything kind of changed for you?
Yeah, it did for sure. I had been living with my mother until I was 18, and then my mother has a younger sister who is kind of like the black sheep of the family, and who said, I'm taking your daughter and I'm taking her to Florida, and she's going to live with me. And so that's what happened. And she was a person without children and did her best to help me out in like the ways that she could, to the best of her ability, with what she knew. And I think that my environment and my circumstances made a big difference, and that really helped me to start the healing journey.
Dang.
Yeah, that was good.
So for how long did you stay in Florida?
I was in Florida for 6 years.
Okay.
I went to college there. I went to Florida Gulf Coast University.
What's their tagline?
I don't.
What do they say? Do they yell at you? Hook 'em,
I don't even know.
Like that? Okay.
I don't even know. It was a completely new university when I got there, and I was like doing work study for one of the deans, and my work study was taking pictures. So I would like photograph everything around campus, which was really so fun.
So that fed into your artistic nature.
Yeah, I was taking art classes, and it was the first time I had worked with clay, and I realized that I loved it, and I was a natural. And I took all of the clay classes that I could potentially take at that school, so there were no more. And I took acting classes for the first time in improv, and that's actually what helped to like get me out of my shell, because I was like really, really, really exceedingly like quiet and shy, and like internal. And then I realized that because I was working full time at a certain point, and I wasn't living with my aunt anymore, I realized that I couldn't pursue acting and I couldn't pursue theater because I had a full time job. And so I had to kind of like cut that out, and then I moved somewhere else. Yeah.
On the pursuit of art.
Yeah.
You moved somewhere else.
I moved to Boston, and I went to art school in Boston.
Isn't Boston one of the greatest art schools there?
They have really good art schools there. I went to the Massachusetts College of Art and Design.
Okay.
Studied ceramics and sculpture and like stop motion animation. It was fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Met a lot of good creative people.
What are you thinking about over there, Michael?
No, that's interesting. No, it's just like my mom, and we talked about that in another podcast. And my mom is an artist, but by nature, like she didn't have to go to school or anything. It was innate in her.
Yeah, of course.
And she's very well known in her community, and her sisters also are artists as well. So one of them, they specialize like in sculptures and all that stuff. My mom is more into paintings and stuff like that. So they do displays every so on, sometimes around the entire city.
Oh, I'd love to see their work.
Yeah. So I'm trying to bring my mom here. Eventually, we'll bring some of her art here.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you touched upon like a really important word, which is innate.
Yeah.
Like these kinds of things that are innate within you, it's kind of like bring forth what you have or it will kill you. Like that quote. It's like if it's in you and it's strong and it's in you and it's a calling and it's a pull towards something, it's your duty as a human being on this earth with the short amount of time you have to pursue that. Whether you go to school or not.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to hear that your family, like the women in your family have allowed that to like flower from them.
Yeah.
From their hearts, their minds, their spirits.
Yeah.
And that they do shows.
Yeah.
So you moved to Boston. Along the way, when you're in Florida or Boston, did any of those like emotions kind of rear up? And then how did you manage them if they peaked from time to time?
I had no help. Aside from my aunt who was with me, who did her best to help me, I had absolutely no professional help. So it was extraordinarily difficult. And I think that I was sad.
So sadness was a side effect.
I was very sad.
Yeah.
I was very angry.
Okay.
So those two emotions mixed together, and I think that was a constant. And I think that's why I sought, it was daily, day, night, afternoon, wake, sleep. It was with me all the time. And I think that's why I sought refuge in art, because it was therapeutic for me to be able to, things that I wasn't able to or didn't have the ability to put into words, I was able to say through my artwork. And that was, like a little bit of a saving grace that I had a creative outlet for my things. And I was also very athletic. So movement helped me a lot. And
that's how you got into yoga?
Yeah. Got into yoga. Actually, one of my exes got me into yoga. And that was also very lovely. And I did it on my own, like every day in college. And I knew, I didn't know much, but I knew that when I practiced yoga, I felt better. And when I didn't practice, I didn't feel so good. So it was my form of like meditation in motion, prayer in motion, whatever you want to call it. And it helped to bring me to a center within myself. So I've practiced almost every day, like since my early 20s.
Every day?
Yeah, whether it's a little stretch or like a mantra or an affirmation or meditation, or simply like, it's a way of like the way that I move through the world, the way that I move through space. Like that's the yoga. It's like how I treat people, how I listen to people. That's all like under the umbrella of yoga.
Interesting.
Yeah. So not just like, the movements, which are also amazing.
Yeah. Would you consider prayer part of yoga then?
Yeah, 100%. You can do that. You can take it out or you can put it in. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, yeah. So the sadness and the anger, would they come in waves and spells, or they?
Yeah.
They would.
Oh yeah.
So you said they were around all the time.
All the time.
But then in instances, it would flood you.
It would flood is a good word.
And then what was the consequence, or like what was your reaction and response to that?
Well, I think I was very self-destructive. So I think I had a lot of like hard feelings towards myself because I didn't understand, like I still didn't have like a grip on like some of the things that had happened. So I turned like aggression in on myself. And I had one person, thankfully, who was like my rock, a very, very, very good soul, a very good spirit, who I leaned on heavily for every single thing. And I was, think about like the hero's journey when you have people who come into your path to assist.
Yeah.
this is one of those people who came into my path and who saved, like really, literally, like saved my life.
You met that person in Boston?
In Florida.
In Florida?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A person.
Are
you connected with this person still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
In a very different way these days.
Sure.
Still connected. And I would do the same. You know, if there was a phone call, it's like, I need your help right now. I would fly 2,000 miles and I'd be there.
Is this a mentor kind of figure?
No, it's someone who I was in a relationship with.
Okay. Got you.
But also, yes, someone who was way more intelligent and learned and, you know, all of that than me. So he was a mentor in many ways.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Dang.
But younger than me.
Hey,
really?
Hey, watch out.
Because the way you described it sounded like he was much older, much wiser.
In here, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, man. Where'd you go?
no. Yeah. So, you know, after you're in Boston and doing your thing in Boston, why did you decide to leave Boston?
A few reasons. So, finished college.
Yeah.
I got a scholarship and got to stay a little bit longer to do some post-bac study at another college in Cambridge. And we just had graduated out. And we were thinking, like, where do we go now? And there were some things... because I was in the same with that relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
We went from Florida to Boston together. And there were some things that started to happen in the relationship that was causing a little distress for both of us. And I think it was a good idea. And we wanted to just move out of Boston. And so we moved to the North Shore, which is also like a beachy area.
What city?
Lynn, Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's like right on the beach.
That's nice.
It was really nice. It was extremely lonely too. But yeah, so.
Is it that area like very vacational that people just go there for?
A little bit. Yeah, it depends on the season. I think in the summers, yeah. But yeah, it was definitely lonely because he was working full time and I wasn't working at all. And so I was home alone every day with my demons. And that was really hard.
Yes. Yeah. Like if you don't keep your mind busy or occupied on other things, these stuff start to creep up and you start double thinking things that really are not there.
Yeah. And that was definitely a problem I had. And I just feel really fortunate in my life now that I've come such a long way. And I'm very lucky that I've met people that have been very loving towards me, very supportive, very mentoring towards me, people that have like really embraced me and like, and through like all of the work that I've done with yoga and self-study and like spirituality and healing, I've been able to come to a place of real like maturity and wisdom. And, you know, it was a very, very hard one, you know.
So when we have the demons, so to speak, okay, we have some choices. We can put a Band-Aid on it and pretend everything's fine, right? Or we can face them, so to speak.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most impactful way to face those?
With love.
Okay.
Yeah. With love.
And are you talking? Is it self-talk?
It can be. I think there are some exercises. I've done a lot of these exercises, which have been like self-talking, creative, role play, like all different kind of therapeutic ways to do it. And but I think ultimately, like the very like root of it is that demon is an aspect. It's a facet of who you are. It's not something external. It's a facet of who you are. And if you look at it long enough, and you look at it with enough compassion and kindness, what you probably find is that like it's big and scary because you've ignored it for so long, or like maybe you've Band-Aided it, or maybe you've been using drugs to like, you know, numb it out, or like whatever ways that we do what we do as human beings. And I think when we start to like look at this scary demon and just breathe, look, watch, you might find that it's like, it's just you at the point where you were wounded, whether that was when you were like a child, like an inner child wound, whether you were an adult. And that, you know, the way to turn, and there's this whole thing in Tantra of like turning your demons into goddesses or gods.
Tantra.
Yeah, like Tantric yoga, not not the kind you're thinking.
No.
And it's a whole different kind. And but it's like turning your wounds into wisdom, essentially, or your demons into gods and goddesses. And it's about like embracing and seeing that it's just you in a wounded space, and embracing that and loving yourself and accepting yourself fully. It's about like a radical self-acceptance. And through that, those demons over time eventually become wisdom. So I think, it can be like a really quick process for those people who like do like ayahuasca and want to have like really deep experiences, or it can be like years and years of experiences, to get you to that place.
So would you say that you pretty much, what you did is just turn it around?
You turn it around.
You take that negative energy and put it into positive things.
Yeah.
Which obviously takes time, right?
Yeah. It's forming new habits too.
Yeah. Yeah, bad routines, you start taking them as, okay, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I better include something that's better, a better routine.
Yeah.
And then it's a trial and error, right? Because you, not the first time necessarily you're gonna make it happen, right?
Right.
So I can see that you trial and error until you say, okay, this routine works for me.
Right. And in yoga, we call that pratipaksha bhavana, which is in Sanskrit means essentially taking one thing and flipping it into something else. So if you have these old stories, if you have these old beliefs that are only serving to like lower your frequency or lower like who you are as a human being, you reflect upon that. And then you're like, okay, like if I'm judging myself right now, or if I'm judging that person over there right now, I can be aware of that. I don't want to judge myself for judging myself and like double the judgment, or judging myself for judging someone else. But I want to be kind and say like, oh, that is happening again. That's happening again. That's part of my healing journey. I'm aware. And then I shift it and I'm like, can I find something nice about myself to say about myself? Or can I find something kind to think about that person that maybe is triggering me in some way?
And you have choice over that.
It's you start to make better choices, and then like literally you form new grooves in your brain. But forming new patterns, as we know, is like difficult. It takes time, so you got to practice. And so you form a new pathway, and then the more you walk down that road consistently, the easier it is to be there, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Does that answer?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing that. That's helpful. Michael, what are some tactical ways you work through things like that?
That's a good question.
To really stare it in the face and break it down and heal.
Like you said, is practice and trial and errors. In the past, insecurities as a kid, especially with girls, right? I didn't know how to handle that, and I was at a young age, I was very vulnerable, very innocent, if you will. Like I didn't see malice in people. You're in your teens, you don't know anything better, and then you meet this girl that thinks she's the whole world for you, and then she's not what you thought it would be, right? So that was a crushing moment in my life. And
was it the first one?
That was the first one.
The first, okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And
how old were you? Just curious, how old?
I was probably 17, 18 years old.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I couldn't understand why it was happening, right? So that kind of like, that's a learning in life, right? So you take that and, over the years, you date other people or you communicate, and then some of those things start to happen the same way or similar. But then on the third one, you're like, okay, I know exactly what could be happening, right? So just turn the tables a little bit, right, in my favor, and then do not get too much caught up in the process.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're young, you don't have the experience, you put everything in, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
And when you put everything in and it doesn't work the way you want, you're devastated.
Oh, yeah, for
right?
sure.
But when you grow up and you learn and, like you said, start looking at things and looking, okay, how can I turn this in a way that I'm not that vulnerable again, right?
Yeah.
So you don't put yourself out there 100%. You just put yourself up a certain percentage and see what happens.
Yeah.
And even when you're in a committed relationship, I still think that there has to be a level of discretion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Even still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's it's all different for different people.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think.
But like you said, you learn and trial and error, man. That's the way. Sometimes people say, "Well, give me your advice." Give me you're like, well, my advice sometimes is not going to work for you. You got to go through it.
Yep.
It's like there's a pothole, right? Yeah. And you say, "Don't walk there because you're going to fall in the pothole." And it's like, well, I can't tell. I'm just going to give you an advice. Right. Don't walk there. But if you do, that's a learning thing for you, right?
It's like Groundhog Day. You just reminded me of that.
Yeah. So you have to, in my opinion, you have to let people go through the process and fail.
Yeah, it's important. And if you're a parent, like that's some important advice too. It's like love, protect, and I'm not a parent, so but yeah, you give all the advice, all the love, and then eventually you've just got to be like, okay, gotta
let her be on her own.
Gotta let it be. But yeah, those things can be devastating, going back to your story. And then, because you put everything in, there's a huge amount of vulnerability, and then there's pain that's associated with it, which is devastating. And it takes a while to build yourself back up. And then, it may happen again. But you also made me think of like patterns, because we all have our own patterns. Yeah. It's like, why, like the question, why do I keep attracting this? And then, if it's happening over and over again, it's like the common denominator then is yourself. So it's like, why, I'm just going to make something up. Like, why do I keep attracting people who want to use me for money? And that's not my situation, but like, then it's like, well, I have to deconstruct that and go inside and say like, well, what about me? What about me? Is there something, because your lesson is going to come to you softly? It's going to come to you more difficult, then it's going to hit you over the head, and like it's going to keep coming until you're like over it, until you're through that like trial, and then you can move on to like a different level, which I think is another thing we experience as human beings, right? It's like, things that we attract, and if there's negative things that we're attracting in our lives, what's the why behind it?
The good news is that those types of things are going to happen, and we know that. Yeah. So we can prepare ourselves. And I think we get better if we're conscious and have the intent to get better. We can. Yeah. Which is pretty awesome.
And then also like through life's battles and all of the difficult experiences, like can we also still keep our hearts open? Because it can be really easy to be like, massive amounts of like protection, and then nothing comes in and nothing goes out, which is also very sad. So it's like, okay, can you still keep it open so that even through all of the pain that you've experienced,
Yeah. Oh, this one's a good one. I was talking about this with somebody the other day. They're like, no, I'm not going to be like this because people are like that or whatever. And now I'm going to close myself off, more or less is what they're saying. I'm like, well, it's inevitable. Yeah. No matter who you are, I don't care how successful or whatever, you've been hurt by somebody, and it's gonna happen.
It's guaranteed.
So it begs the question, right? Yeah, because if you can have a choice, you either accept it or you close yourself off. But we know that closing yourself off is not okay. Yeah. So then, what do you do? How do you swallow that? What mindset shift does one need to take to not let that get the best of them? Yeah. What is it?
I don't know. Do you know?
I just,
I want to hear your answer.
Okay.
Well, I would think is, like you said, it's learning and start to learn a different pattern, how to make different choices immediately when it happens. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, it's going to be very difficult, right? You don't want to make that change, right? Because like, oh my God, no, this is who I think I am. We talked about that in the last podcast.
Tell me.
You were asking me, how do you know what I know? It's like, well, I'm to an age that I know who I really am and what I want in my life. If you talk to me 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I was still doubtful about things. But now it's like, I know this person's not good for me. Out, right? I have quicker. That. Yeah, it's quick. It's quick, right? Before I kind of let it linger. Like, oh yeah, maybe she will change or maybe he will change. And then you find out that they don't change. That's the way they are, right? And then when you get older, you're like, okay, I don't want that. Next.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. It's quick. Yeah. Right? So it's like, like driving a car. If you're like into motorsports or whatever, you have the ability to move very quickly, right? In a curve and rectify yourself. If you don't know how to drive very well, you can slip and slide and hit the curve, right? So that's the analogy that I put. It's just training. And once you know exactly who you are, you start, letting those things go very quickly.
And you can gracefully decline.
Yeah.
Yes. You can gracefully say, no, thank you. I don't want that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get the best of you that way. Because you have a certain centeredness about you that you've kind of, I don't know, do you earn centeredness? Where does that come about?
Yeah, good question. And then grace, that's a great word too. It's like, how do you walk through the world with grace? And not just like the physicality of it, like the way that you physically walk through the space. Some people are more graceful that way than others, but
when someone steals from you, I heard this the other day.
Yeah.
Because if someone stole something from me, I think my knee-jerk reaction would be like, that's messed up.
Yeah.
That's messed up. I think the bigger thinker, or the more, I'll just get to the point here. They said, maybe that person needs it more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a way to think about getting stolen from.
Right.
That's huge.
And that's less painful on you.
Yeah.
To think that
it's
way.
Like, you know what?
Yeah.
You might have needed more than me.
Mm-hmm.
And you carry on.
Yeah.
Dang, dude.
Exactly.
Well, that's a very difficult one to do, to be honest with you, because the first reaction is like, screw you.
Yeah. Yeah. But what does that say about somebody that can just let that slide, right?
I mean, that's pretty masterful.
Masterful.
Yeah, that's pretty masterful. Yeah, it's inspiring.
That goes hand with, it happened many years, and it happened with that story I told you about somebody that they wanted money borrowed now. And then at that time, I was like, if this person doesn't give me the money back, I was already aware of it. Like it was not going to be a big deal. So that's the mindset you have to go up front if you can, right?
Abundance mindset. There's more out there.
Yeah, put it more out there. And if somebody comes to ask you something, just be cognizant of what could happen. Just be prepared for it,
right?
So it doesn't, get you off guard.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that comes with like age and experiences and all of that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So, Erica, do you have some questions for us?
Oh my goodness! No, I think
this is a first.
This is a great, nice flowing conversation. Great, nice flowing conversation. I think you had asked me something about like how did I turn things around, and was there like a pivotal moment or something like that? Yeah. So, I mean, you had talked about like a childhood heartbreak or like a teenage heartbreak. You didn't really speak about like how you were able to I mean, you did say like more and more you were like, you gave a little less, you were a little more like observant of things.
Yes.
So that was part of it. Was there anything else that you were able to do to like maybe come out of that feeling of that first time?
The first time, no. I was very young, and that was very depressing. I was very depressed for months. And, a 17, 18-year-old kid, that doesn't know anything else than that first love, or what you think it was love,
right?
And get crushed like that. No. But over the years, you start, like I said, kind of like putting things in perspective and not getting too much deep into the situation. But that took years, right? Trial and error, right?
Little by little.
Little by little. And I'm to the point in my life that, something is not working. I'm just like immediately move on.
You're like,
Yeah. I just don't want to waste my time anymore.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Because you already know what you really want as a person and what your boundaries are. If you understand your boundaries, if somebody falls out of those boundaries, you know that you can't force somebody else to do something that they don't do it by nature.
Yeah, that's a big topic. It's like, okay, as a woman, I have an expectation that I should be treated a certain way. By men, or let's just say like the person I'm with. And if that expectation isn't happening, I think when I was younger, I would just sit and I would like get like frustrated by it. And now I've learned that sometimes I have to say, you know what would feel good for me is if instead of doing this, you would do this. Can you try this? And I find that it's like very helpful, not only in like my personal relationships, but like in every relationship. And when I say like, you know what, let's not do this. Let's do it this way because I think it'll be better for us. And I've never been able to do that before. This is like really new to me, but I'm feeling like very empowered. But I have felt like you so long. And I'm also the kind of person that like when I'm emotional about things or I'm thinking about things, I'll turn it into myself, and I won't I'll be very non-confrontational about things. But then it'll like eat at me.
Yeah.
So I think like part of my objective, like last year and this year, is to say what I'm feeling, say what I'm thinking, even if it's uncomfortable. And if that person doesn't like it, great.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Not for you.
Not for me.
But
right.
you probably have mastered to some degree the art of how to kind of to say that to that person, right?
It's hard.
It's hard
telling
because
how you do it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, how do you approach something without like hurting someone's feelings? Like it's like being mindful, like, is this person sensitive, you know, are they reactive? Or how could they potentially respond or react to this?
Yeah.
And I think that the approach becomes very important of like, let's say, for example, I don't know, let's say we share an office and you eat my lunch like sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm just like, let's just say something like that. And like, I let you slide because you're hungry or whatever. And, but it starts to bother me. And over time, like I get more and more upset about it. I think it might just come down to like, hey, there's something that's really important for me, like really important for my heart, for my mind. And I really love working with you and being in a relationship with you in this office. And do you have a moment to sit down and speak with me about something that's really, really important to me? And, if you say yes, great, because then you're receptive. And then I think that the next part is like no finger pointing, just saying like, you give a specific example, like when you eat my lunch, I feel disrespected. And I would like you instead, if you're hungry, I'm happy to give you my lunch, but maybe instead give me a text ahead of time, ask me if I'm going to eat it. And that would make me feel so much better and much more respected. Are you willing to do that? So I think like creating like a flow of statements and questions that is, because imagine that and instead I go like this. Why are you being such a ...
Yeah.
You're like such a horrible person. You're always doing this to me. You're just terrible. I don't even want to share an office with you anymore. What, like that's very different, right? Because you might suddenly be like, I'm attacked. Yeah. I'm feeling defensive. So I feel like the approach makes a difference. But you can't always do that because there's emotions sometimes. Yes. And it's like, you got to like wait till those emotions are very soft to like make the approach. And again, that's not something that always happens, but you do your best. Yeah. And then sometimes people don't respond well, and then you just gotta be like,
you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
You try your best.
Yeah.
You should you probably had those experiences here at the office, right? You work constantly with a lot of people here, coming in and go.
I'm always eating his lunch.
Yeah.
You can. I'll go get another lunch.
Any pivotal experiences that have brought you to a place of wisdom in your life? Going from like darkness to light.
This one kind of flashed in my mind the past couple of days, a few times, coincidentally, and I just noticed a pattern of disappointment. Right, and it was because of me, because of the way I was being, right? Because I grew up in a household that was very, it was like just very like tense and strung out all the time, and the communication was not like that, like you eloquently described. It was like the opposite of that, right? So I didn't, couldn't really release things in a healthy fashion. Yeah. Okay. So, I got back from the military and I had a girlfriend at the time, and then we moved to the Bronx. And then, I wasn't the best boyfriend, I'll admit it. I was like in a terrible spot because my mom just died. My dad was extremely angry and he was drinking a lot. And I was just like pissed at life and whatever, right? So then I had this girlfriend that was in the mix, and I went to work one day at the restaurant when I was in college, and then I had a gut feeling. I was just like, something was wrong. I could tell something was wrong. So I asked my manager, I said, manager, let me go home. I gotta go. I can't explain this. I need to go home. So I get there, and the light was on. I could see the light was on in my bedroom from outside. And I opened the door to go inside the house. And when I opened my bedroom door, there was 2 people in my bedroom. And the door opened as if I was the stranger looking in. And that, it's like, you can make the choice, right? What are you going to do? How are you going to look at this? Are you going to look at it like the victim, or are you going to take responsibility? So I didn't take the victim mindset. I said, something, I don't blame you. I don't blame her. And I saw that as like an eye-opening experience. And I asked myself the question, what did I do to deserve this? But not in not in a victim way. Like, what have I done to set my life up to where things like this occur? And what can I do to change it? And those hard things, if you set your intention to grow from them, because your past can either be baggage or it can be luggage. You get to choose. You get to choose. So I chose to make it my luggage and grow from it. And then I had a much more healthy relationship after that. And then a lot of growth came from that experience.
That's great that you're able to have that thought in that moment that could have been very, very, very different.
You were very young, right?
Yeah.
I was 23.
Yeah.
Well,
23.
To make that decision at that age is remarkable, because at that age you're still figuring it out, man.
Yeah.
At 23 you're like, you don't know what your left foot is from your right foot, right? Like, you're still figuring it out.
Do you think that is kind of like a starting point, that if there is a timeline that brought you to who you are today in terms of like your mindset?
It brought... Wait, can you repeat the question?
So that particular moment, you open the door and you ask yourself the very, very important question, which is a very mature question. And so that is like your starting point. And if there's a timeline from that starting point till today, would you say that that particular moment kind of informed your mindset, like through the timeline to who you are today? Did you grow from that place?
You know what? In a way I did, but it's not what really brought me to living a life of greatness. It's not. What that was when I was reading books. That's what shaped me, become who I am. Those things are all important. All those like negative experiences, they're very important. But they're not what kind of propelled me to go upward and forward at the same time. Yeah.
What's a pivotal book for you?
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Yeah. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. That's when I got a taste of what life could be. Right?
Nice.
Where that negative experience, I'll wrap this part up with this lesson. That negative experience, all it did was, or what it did mainly, was give me a huge amount of humility and gratitude. Because it's like, if I have the ability to get out of something from being that kind of guy to change and still get into relationships and have love after being that kind of guy, you got no other choice but to be humble and grateful that you have that ability still.
Those are two very important words. Humility and gratitude.
So that's what that did for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So do you think that in today's age, people are lacking of that humility or that humbleness? Everything is too self-centered?
Oh my God, so much.
Right?
Not everybody.
No.
Not everybody.
You know what I think it is? I think the root cause is the distraction level. Because we're not putting ourselves in these uncomfortable situations. We're not really going out there to experience all that much because we're easily distracted. We have our phone, which is a constant distraction.
Bad idea.
Think about how many hours, right? Yeah, that's my would be my consensus. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. How about you?
Yeah. I think that social media has opened a can of worms for the better or the worst. And right now, I think humanity is going through a new change in communication that we're not ready for. Because think about this, how we communicated for thousands and thousands of years. Not through this. This is new. This is like 30 years old.
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
So we're not ready for this.
Yeah. Age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
Everything is transmitted through air now.
Yeah. So I think that to decouple that from what we are as human beings is very difficult because by nature, we are meant to be in communities and interact with each other. And this does the opposite. Even think people are connected, but they're not.
Exactly.
This is, I call it, is kind of a virtual reality that's not really real. People like that were born in this time frame, this is all they know.
Yeah.
And for them, this is real.
Like I have followers. I'm important because I have followers. But I think you're touching upon something that's really important. I think I read somewhere, and I don't know the exact number, but like in order for like a human being to feel like happy and healthy, we need about 8 hugs a day. How many hugs are we getting? How many hugs are we getting a day? Yeah. Like how many real hugs are we getting a day? And then on top of that, like how many times a day do we feel like we're in community that's meaningful and safe and happy and supportive? Like I think there's just such a lack of that. So people aren't feeling loved. They aren't feeling seen. They aren't feeling heard. They aren't feeling supported. And I think that is causing a lot of interesting turmoil and energy in the world.
Jesse Eitzler said that once a quarter, he adds a new habit that's going to be helpful and benefit his life. That would be one of those habits that I think somebody would add on there.
Hugs.
8 hugs a day, right? Because think about, I mean, the statistics don't lie. They have ways to measure that stuff. Yeah. And you have got a great point. I don't hug 8 people a day. You hug 8 people a day? No. Do you see 8 people a day during the week?
And that's the big problem, right? It's just we are, and COVID made it worse.
Yeah.
Right? Now people work from home. And if you tell people, let's go back to the office, people are like, why? I worked 2.5 years at home. Why would I want to go back to the office?
So true.
So some of the leaders, at least in corporate where I work, they're asking us to go at least 3 times a week now.
But it's not corporately correct to touch your coworkers. You know what I mean? Like if there's like a handbook or something, like touching has to be like, there has to be a yes, there has to be consent, and there's got to be a specific way. Like there's just,
so, hey, you walk in the office, hey, may I give you a hug?
Yes,
and then, yes, I can. Oh, okay. And then you hug, and then you're good. Times 8.
I don't know. Oh. I'm in a relationship, and I don't hug my partner 8 times a day.
Yeah, no. And that's also generational. So the people that, let's say, I don't see them anymore because most of my coworkers are in Detroit. But when I used to be there, I gave a hug to my CEOs or directors or whatever. Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
But also you got to remember, I come from the Latin culture.
Yes.
That everything's hugging, kisses.
Warming. I have a story about that. Go ahead.
No, but that's a case, right? So obviously there were some people who were like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But most people were receptive.
Right.
They're like, oh my God, this guy is so friendly. Or this guy is so welcoming, right? And that brings so much power. Because if you feel that person is acknowledging you, you can ask them for the world and they'll give it to you.
Yeah. I think that's nice. I think it's getting trickier and trickier to like be human in that way. Yeah. Because there's just so much sensitivity right now, which is, it's okay. It's what's happening. But the story about the hugging and being in and coming from a Latin culture of like you kiss on one cheek or you do 2 kisses or 3 kisses, just depending on like whatever, like big hugs and, you're touching on the shoulder. Like it's just very natural. Yeah. And, so when I first moved to Florida and I started to go to school there in college, I don't know. I found a friend at school, a guy friend, and for some reason one day I didn't have a car. So I was like, hey, would you mind just like driving me to school, picking me up and driving me to school? And he was like, sure. I don't even remember his name. I don't remember what he looks like. I have no idea who he is anymore. And so he drove me and he dropped me off. And being from the culture, like we parked, I leaned over to like give him a hug and like a kiss on the cheek. And
He's like, what?
he jumped back. And I like, he's, white guy. And so, so I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, no, it's just like, I wasn't trying to do anything. I was like, I was going to give you a hug and a kiss on the cheek. That's what we do. And, okay, bye. I was like, this is what we do. Yeah. And it was just so interesting. It was like that clash of cultures. And we were both kind of like shocked. So like, what just happened? Never experienced that before. No, never experienced that after, but that was like pretty funny.
Yeah. So when I moved to Michigan, I say it was in 2000. That's where I got my first job. The first person that I met there was somebody from Greece.
Okay.
Born and raised in the States, but their parents were born in Greece. Yeah. Well, his dad was born in Greece. His mom was born in the United States, but very Greek. So. And they're very similar to the Latin culture.
Yeah.
So I kind of gravitated when I didn't know anybody in that state. I gravitated to that family because it was like, okay, this is kind of like being home.
Yeah, a little bit. And the food's delicious.
Yeah, the only thing that I don't eat for you guys that know is goat. I just don't like the taste. And they would, grill this goat in the middle of the garage. I'm like, oh no, I can't touch it. You can give me everything else, but don't give me goat.
No goat, please.
No goat, please.
I've tried goat milk. It's a very different flavor than cow's milk.
Is it very strong?
Yeah.
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 So that's how I feel with the meat. It has this weird aftertaste, and I'm like, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's different. It's like an acquired taste if you have the patience to acquire it.
Yeah.
But if you grow up with it, I'm sure it's,
Yeah. So that was my story. And the only thing that I was missing is speaking Greek, but I was pretty much part of that family. Like,
that's awesome.
His parents took me in, and it was like every weekend during summertime, they have a pool. I don't know if they're still working, but that was the thing. Gather all the family, the cousins, and that's like the Italians do. The cousins, the grandma, the grandfather, everybody in the house, and having barbecue, that's whatever, nice. Right? And then obviously they had these private Greek events where people would go dancing. I learned a little bit of Greek dancing too. It was like being at home. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's a nice experience. Well, it's just like us, like Greg's office. I don't think we even knew it, but like many of us are from New Jersey somehow.
Yeah.
Like 3 of us are from New Jersey, and I guess we like sense it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
You? Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then we feel like maybe more comfortable somehow because like we're from the same area.
So how did you meet Greg?
Oh, okay. So I was in the process of getting my real estate license. Okay. And one of my students actually was a realtor and one of my yoga students here. And she had come to my class with her boyfriend, and I was speaking to her boyfriend after class. This is kind of a long roundabout story, but I was like, I was telling him I'm getting my realtor license, and he was like, she needs an assistant. So she hired me as her assistant. I was her assistant for a very short period of time. And then during that time, I realized like, I don't think I want to be an assistant. Maybe I want to be a realtor, but I will still look for those jobs. Yeah. So I think Greg had like a job posting on LinkedIn for like a runner. Or like some kind of assistant for the real estate thing. So I messaged and I sent my resume on LinkedIn, and then I like Googled him and found his email address. And then I emailed him and I was like, hey, just wanted to let you know that I sent my resume in, looking forward to connecting with you. And he emailed back. And so we went back and forth. I ended up like chatting with him here, and he was like, just do the realty thing. And I was like, okay. And then that's kind of how it went. And, I popped around and interviewed with lots of different teams, but I feel like, because all of the guys in the office, like we all met for like an hour, and I just felt like, this is like, I like this vibe. Like I like this energy. Everybody's pretty cool. And, I guess they liked me back. And so that was the way.
That's a good journey because, just for you guys know out there, it's very difficult to get into industry or some kind of job that you're looking for through these apps. I'm just going to be honest with you.
I agree.
You put your resume and it goes to a black box and you don't even know if somebody received it. Mm-hmm. What most companies do is that's a formality that they do because they have to do it. It's part of the process. But most of them know who they're going to pick.
Yeah, I agree.
Up front,
I agree.
right? It's somebody internal in the company that they already agree upon. And this is just a formality. So my advice for most of you is find somebody that has a good connection inside the company that you want to apply for, and then let that person help you out directly.
100%, yeah.
That's the way to go.
And if it's not the case, do what I did and, just try and find that person online and try and find their phone number, their email address, and reach out to them and do it like a personal touch like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what helped is that I emailed him directly and I was like, hi.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm here.
Yeah, I was waving my arms.
You put a emoji like, hey, I'm here.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I think that was very helpful. But yeah, I agree with you. And that actually happened to me when I lived in Boston and I was working at a museum in Boston. And I wanted to have a full-time job there. I was working part-time for a minute. And I applied to a position that was like an archival position where it's like the people who handle the paintings, these ancient paintings and sculptures, and then they painstakingly restore them. I was trying to get into the restoration department because I was like, I don't really like doing a lot of kind of work, but I think I'd like this work. And I was in my 20s, so I was just trying to figure things out. And they interviewed me 3 times, and I was really confident. I was like, I'm getting this job. I was so excited. And I honestly they kind of on the side said try again. Next time something comes up. They weren't allowed to say, that they had already chosen someone before that because it was a formality. But it was nice to know that at least they're come back.
Yeah, at least they gave you that courtesy because a lot of people was just not, they don't even reply.
I know. And the human resources director gave me this beautiful blue glass vase that was hand blown by I don't know, these glass blowers in Italy. And she was like, I want you to have this. So I felt really seen. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I felt confident that I could apply for something similar within the company again. But then we moved. So it didn't happen.
Restoration is probably a very skilled art form.
Yeah.
You have to spend years and years because you're touching, a painting or you're touching a sculpture and you got to make it look like nothing happened.
Yeah. Exactly. So I would start from the very bottom, watching, observing. But yeah, fun stuff. Not a restoration person. I am now a realtor. Still starts with the letter R. So.
Well, I think I don't have any more questions to you. Do you have any questions more for me?
No, but I think it was great. It was great hanging out and having this conversation with you on the podcast. I think we should do something again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks guys for the podcast. And I think we'll see you guys in another podcast.
Yes.
Talk to you later.
Peace.
Peace.